Family meant everything to young Elizabeth. She belonged to us four, a term coined by her beloved father Albert, Duke of York, to signify the close-knit bond he had with his wife and two daughters. They enjoyed a relatively normal and secure family life and were inseparable. That was how they thought it would remain. Nobody could have predicted how their lives would change so drastically in the future. But the importance of family remained a constant to Elizabeth. Us four became us three in 1952, with the devastating loss of Albert, by then King George VI. The following 50 years saw Queen Elizabeth remain extremely close with her mother and sister, but within the space of just 6 weeks in early 2002, she lost them both. It had a huge impact on her personally, but how did it change her as Queen? And how had she managed to keep us three intact for so long when her responsibilities as a monarch threatened to tear the family apart? I'm Anita Rani, and this is Beneath the Crown. Elizabeth was very protective of Margaret during childhood. Their differing personalities led Albert to label the former his pride and the latter his joy. This special bond gave Elizabeth a template for the fun-filled, family-focused life that was supposed to be ahead of her. But in December 1936, Albert's brother, King Edward VIII, abdicated after choosing a life with American divorcee Wallis Simpson ahead of the crown. Suddenly, Elizabeth's father was King George VI, and she was heir to the throne. This was never meant to happen. The relatively anonymous life Elizabeth expected to lead was gone. In its place was an impending role that put the duties of monarchy into conflict with her loyalties as a loving sister and daughter. The moment their father became king, Elizabeth and Margaret were no longer equals. The future queen was deemed to be of higher importance than her sister and granted a better education. But that imbalance didn't stop them having fun together as sisters, such as when they memorably ventured out amongst the crowds on VE Day in May 1945. It was an increasingly rare taste of freedom for them, partying like two normal teenagers.
Oh, hold your noses.
What?
It stinks of alcohol and sweat.
It smells of life.
King George never lost sight of the importance of keeping the family unit together in the face of the unexpected turbulence caused by the abdication. In a touching letter to Elizabeth, several days after her marriage to Prince Philip in November 1947, he wrote, "Our family, us four, the royal family, must remain together, with additions, of course, at suitable moments. You leaving us has left a great blank in our lives, but do remember that your old home is still yours, and do come back to it as much and as often as possible."
What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb.
Tragically, on the 5th of February 1952, us four became us three when King George passed away aged just 56. Elizabeth was now Queen at 25 and expected to put the interests of the crown above everything else, including her family.
Queen Elizabeth II. Like her namesake, Queen Elizabeth I, did not pass her childhood in any certain expectation of the crown. This new Elizabethan age comes at a time when mankind stands uncertainly poised
Wait.
on the edge of catastrophe.
Princess Margaret's volatile lifestyle and love life were to prove a stern test for Elizabeth's priorities and decision-making skills. Her romance with divorced war hero Peter Townsend threatened to create an irreparable rift between the sisters. As head of the Church of England, the Queen had a duty to disapprove of remarriage for divorced persons when their former spouses were still alive. There was to be no favouritism towards her family, especially so soon after the Wallis Simpson scandal. Margaret's subsequent toxic marriage to Anthony Armstrong-Jones also jeopardised the royal family's reputation. But Elizabeth didn't forget her sisterly duties, helping to regularly look after Margaret's children while her marriage fell apart. The pair remained close, speaking on the phone almost every day throughout their adult lives, no matter where they were in the world. The Queen Mother also provided counsel, speaking frequently with her daughters.
The history of the monarchy in this country is a one-way street of humiliation, sacrifices and concessions in order to survive. First the barons came for us, then the merchants, now the journalists. Small wonder we make such a fuss about curtsies, protocol and precedent. It's all we have left. The last scraps of armour as we go from ruling to reigning to...
To what?
to being nothing at all. Marionettes. Right. Gloves on. Ah.
After the failure of her romance with garden designer Roddy Llewellyn, Margaret retreated into family life and regularly accompanied her sister on royal engagements, with lessening resentment over the different and unexpected paths their lives had taken. Just a sense of duty. During the 1990s, a torrid time for the royal family, Margaret comforted Elizabeth during the acrimonious breakup of her son Charles's marriage. When her health started to deteriorate with a series of strokes and other health problems, Elizabeth did all she could to help.
I just wanted to see how you are.
I'm well, thank you.
Of course you are. But I do hope you're taking it easy. And cancelling official engagements?
Some of them, yes. No need to cancel all of them. You know how I hate an empty diary.
Throughout it all, the Queen Mother was a constant source of comfort for her daughters. By now, she'd been a widow for half of her life and remained ever popular in the eyes of the British public, full of sympathy towards her. Despite increasing mobility issues, she loved meeting people so much that at the age of 97, she managed a staggering 46 public engagements in a year. For her 100th birthday in August 2000, a huge pageant was arranged in London, and it was a spectacular ratings success, with 12 million Brits tuning in. By 2001, further strokes had rendered Margaret blind and partially paralysed. She began preparing for the end, with Elizabeth spending as much time with her as possible.
I've written a very detailed plan for my funeral. You know what a planner I am, and I want your reassurance that it will go exactly as I intend.
Margaret did manage to make an appearance for the 100th birthday of her aunt, Princess Alice, in December. But on the 9th of February 2002, she passed away, aged 71. The Queen Mother reportedly told Prince Charles that the death had probably been a merciful release. In a twist of fate, Margaret's funeral took place on the 50th anniversary of her father's funeral. The Queen was described by one of Margaret's friends as being the saddest I have ever seen her. The following month, on the 30th of March, the Queen Mother passed away at Windsor Castle, aged 101, just 6 weeks after Margaret's death. For Elizabeth, she wasn't just a mother, she was a link to her much-missed and much-loved father too. The carefully planned Operation Taybridge was put into action. 9 days of official mourning were declared ahead of a royal ceremonial funeral. Despite concerns of little public interest, 250,000 people lined the streets as her coffin was driven from St James's Palace to Westminster Hall. When the car containing Elizabeth and Philip drove by, mourners spontaneously burst into applause. The Queen later described this moment as one of the most touching things.
And applause for her on the final stage of her final journey.
Elizabeth made a televised address the night before the funeral to commemorate her mother and thank the public for their response.
Ever since my beloved mother died over a week ago, I have been deeply moved by the outpouring of affection which has accompanied her death.
After the deaths of her mother and sister, a different Queen Elizabeth started to emerge, one that was compelled to fill the void by engaging more with the wider public, one that was liberated enough to cast off the more traditional and austere regal aspects of monarchy in favour of embracing inclusivity and modern society, one that grew in self-confidence. On her Golden Jubilee tour in the summer of 2002, she met a diverse range of multicultural communities. While in the town of Scunthorpe, she set foot inside a mosque for the first time in Britain. The gesture was very well received, especially at a time when Muslim communities were facing increased hostility in the aftermath of 9/11. She also visited a Hindu temple, a Jewish temple, and a Sikh temple during her Jubilee travels. The feeling grew that Elizabeth was much more in touch with her public than before and was willing to go out of her comfort zone. The importance of family had not been forgotten by the Queen, though. At a speech at London's Guildhall on the 4th of June, she said,
"My children and all my family have given me such love and unstinting help over the years, and especially in recent months."
The centrepiece was the innovative Party at the Palace event in early June, the first ever party open to the public in the grounds of Buckingham Palace. It was a huge success. The pop concert featured music legends like Elton John, Annie Lennox and Paul McCartney, with Queen guitarist Brian May memorably playing the national anthem from the palace roof. The concert also saw more progression. It was Camilla Parker Bowles' first public appearance with the Queen. As for the big balcony moment at Buckingham Palace, the great test, it couldn't have gone any better. The bond that Elizabeth shared with the us three of her mother and sister had seemingly been transferred to a much strengthened bond with the wider people. A more assured Queen had emerged from those two major bereavements. While the loss was great, it gave her the freedom to focus on the crown without the responsibilities of being a sister and a daughter. She found solace in her royal duties and could focus on herself and the path she believed her role as monarch should take. The us no longer applied to Elizabeth and her family. The us was now Elizabeth and the British public.